What's going on, man? Hey, I got a quick question for you. What does it really mean to cherish your wife? The meaning that I have, cherishing your wife is about being considerate, respectful, and being her partner. Today, you're going to get an understanding of what being considerate is, what being considerate does to your marriage, and how you can actually be considerate. Also, you can steer your marriage towards peace, growth, and unity, and away from separation and resentment. If that sounds good, I'm Darren McGee, and I want to welcome you to the Grove Coaching Experience. Let's dive in. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. Treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so nothing will hinder your prayers. 1 Peter 3:7. Prior to this verse, Peter was speaking about respect and submission in the context of relationships. So that's why we see him begin in the same way. But we'll save that for another time. Being considerate as you live with your wife, that's going to be the focal point for today. Simply put, this means being thoughtful, paying attention to your wife's feelings, her needs, and the things that she's going through. It's about understanding and knowing your wife. And also it's about learning her desires, learning the things that she struggles with. And you might be like, man, why I gotta do all that? Because this is going to improve your connection. You don't want your marriage going down the road of divorce. That's not what we want. So when you know these things about her, when you know her desires, when you know her struggles, this enables you as the leader, as her husband, as her friend. This enables you to help her go towards the desires that she wants and to stay away from the things that hurt her if it's not going to better her. And also, don't just stop at her physical needs. Think about her emotional needs. Think about her spiritual needs as well. And see, being considerate in your marriage towards your wife is going to bring in peace to your home. But it doesn't just stop there. The other benefits to being considerate is it builds and strengthens the trust in your marriage. And we all need trust in our marriage. And on top of that, if you don't feel like you're connected with your wife and you can feel that distance, then being considerate is definitely a step in the right direction. And bro, look, on top of all of that, because God created marriage, you reflect God's love in your marriage when you're being considerate. And this is a great move. This is definitely what you want, because this is one of the purposes of marriage. It's to actually reflect God in and through our marriage. And see, as I started learning this myself, because listen, man, I was not considerate of my wife at all. When I can see her struggling with something, and it doesn't have to be a physical thing, but emotionally. I see her struggling emotionally. Like she's trying to handle juggling this, she's trying to handle juggling that. And I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't address anything. I'm thinking in my mind, like, well, I got my own stuff to think about too, so I can't really help you. Not saying it in those words, but basically that's what I was saying by what I was doing. I would see her needing help with dishes and everything like that, and I would just be on the couch watching TV. Or I would be in the room doing something. And even when it came down to my son, who was like 1 or 2 at the time, he could need a diaper change, or she could need help with him. And I would just sit there and wait. I don't know where my mind was. I think I was just trying to figure it out. But that's no excuse. There's no excuse, because now we're better. We learn, we know more, we're better now. But in that moment, I wasn't necessarily thinking or trying to figure out how to be considerate and help her. And I was just under the assumption like, well, that's just what she do. She's supposed to be doing that. But in actuality, me thinking that way, it was leading to my home dividing. It was leading to things just kind of going south because I was neglecting her. And speaking of neglect, I actually got a couple of videos about how you know when you're neglecting your wife, or how do you know you're neglecting your wife and not realizing it, and 3 ways to overcome neglect. So make sure I'll link them in the description. Make sure you check those out as well. But once I caught on to it and I started realizing that what I'm doing is wrong, and I picked up on being considerate, I'm telling you, it was a huge difference. I started to notice that being considerate, my wife and I, we were fighting a lot less. Because what really changed was me. My mindset started changing because I started thinking about being considerate towards her. I stopped trying to be right in everything. I'm not saying that I kept my mouth closed and didn't say nothing. Not saying that. But I stopped trying to be right. And instead, I understood that my wife was feeling a certain way. And so what I did was I focused on that feeling and trying to make it my priority to understand that feeling. And the crazy part about it, man, is like when I started getting understanding of her, it's like all her defense mechanisms just went down. Like she didn't put up no walls, no blockades, no nothing. Like it just went down. And naturally, that opened up a door for me to say what I needed to say. And she was more receptive of it. Bro, listen, what would have been an argument, it wound up being a healthy conversation. And that healthy conversation helped us handle this disagreement or whatever we had going on in a productive way. And I'm telling you, this is one of the many marriage game changers. This is just one of them. Being considerate also affects your marriage positively because it lets your wife know that you value her feelings, you value her thoughts, you just value her, period. And in other words, you're just honoring her. And look, before we go on to the how, hit that like button for me, subscribe. And if there's anything on your mind dealing with being considerate with your wife, drop it in the comments. There are many ways that you can do this, but I'm just going to give you a few that I use and that started changing my marriage. In no particular order, we're going to start it off with treating her with gentleness and respect. This means don't dismiss her feelings. Like validate her emotions, acknowledge her emotions, give her support, even if it doesn't seem logical at the time. Like, let her know you're there for her. Be gentle and respectful. Number 2, actively listen to her. This means when she speaks or when she starts talking to you about how she's feeling, about her day, what's getting on her nerves, throw away the distractions. Get the distractions out of the way and make her your sole focus. Number 3, help her without being asked. And this is pretty self-explanatory. But basically, this means step in and help her out around the house or with any other responsibilities. Because this is going to show that you're attentive to her. And if I could go one more, I would go pray with her and for her. Invite God into your marriage. Being the designer of marriage, allow Him to help you connect and transform your marriage for the better. And I want you to remember 2 things. 1, that if you confess that Jesus is your Lord and Savior and believe in your heart that He was raised from the dead, you'll be saved. And the second thing I want you to remember is that a stronger family starts with a stronger you. Have a blessed one, man.